haven't glanced over the chapter, what we are busy with chapter 9 at the moment. And as I said at the start of yesterday's session, also I've not done the case study on the Four Seasons Hotel at the end of chapter 8, because chapter 8 dealt with the role of the employees specifically in the service delivery process, and chapter 9 deals with the role that the customer plays, and why it's actually become a trend to have more to share the responsibilities of ensuring that the delivery process runs smoothly, and that the experience of the customer that is of utmost satisfaction still remains, and that still is our objective, but that we have a better chance of achieving that. We were specifically looking at gym instructors in the gym who work for that particular group, Virgin Active, Planet Fitness, whoever they are, or just the local gym around the corner, your floor instructors, your personal trainers, assisting a new member. That's just extending the service of the gym facility, because and remember, for those people who do gym, and I, for many years, I've realized that people in the industry, the health and fitness industry, are not aware of the fact that if you own a gym, like Virgin owns many, or if it's a privately owned gym, it doesn't matter. You are not in the gym business. You're not selling equipment. You are offering a service, and the service is the social interaction combined with the advice and guidance on exercise, on how to exercise effectively and safely. And that's what happens under those under a roof at a fitness facility. And there, with that example, we've already seen that a function that is usually fulfilled by somebody else can later on be fulfilled by a member, when the member helps another member, for instance, sharing the knowledge that they've obtained from the instructor or trainer that guided them and assisted them when they joined in the first place. The role of opening a bank account, for instance, where you are expected as the customer, you want good service from the bank. You want the bank to open your account very quickly. It must be an efficient process, but you are part of the service delivery process, because you have to submit certain documentation. If you don't, the transaction can't be completed, and you would be a dissatisfied customer. So it's along those lines that I decided not to do the case study yesterday, and also because you will can probably see chapter 8 and chapter 9, the roles of the consumer, the end user, the consumer, and the service provider themselves, and the employees of the service provider, that they are very much interrelated, and can to a certain degree, in some cases more than others, influence the efficiency in which the service delivery happens, and also therefore contribute to the satisfaction of the customer. In other words, customers actually satisfy themselves by performing their role in the service delivery process better. They can do that if they are better informed. I used the example yesterday of me and my wife assembling a computer corner unit that took us about 8 hours to do, following all the instructions. It was brilliant. It was rewarding because you've achieved it. But on second thought, if offered the same opportunity again, I would much rather have it assembled and delivered to my home for an extra fee. But that's also another example where, through the instructions, the informative instructions provided by the service provider where you purchase the product from, they can actually allow you access to the process of your total experience by contributing yourself, by attempting to assemble it yourself. So there are definitely enough examples, and the examples I've started off this morning and probably repeated some that I gave yesterday, was just to refresh and to also see that if we are going to allow, because that's still the choice of the service provider, if we are going to allow to get our customers involved in the service delivery process in a greater way. We need to ensure that there are certain basic skills that that's required of them, and that we have to, as service providers, equip them with. One of them is knowledge, for instance. Now, you can, as a customer, have certain roles that you fulfill at the hand of the specific skill that you bring to the service delivery process. You can have a very inert or idle contribution that you make to the process, and that is basically where you're going for operation. You've got to be there, otherwise the operation can't happen. The doctor needs to be there, but you can't do anything. You can't operate on yourself. Okay, so then you have a sort of a idle involvement in that whole process. But you can also be an instructor. You can be an instructor where, for instance, your experience of building a house starts with you sitting down with an architect and providing him with information so he can draft the building plans for you. If you don't provide him with all the correct information, the drawing is not going to satisfy you. And at the end of the day, if you've excluded some information and the plans are approved and the house is built, you'll be dissatisfied with the whole process. But then your contribution as instructor, providing the correct information for the service provider, in this case the architect, to draft the plans according to your specifications, is very important, and you have not fulfilled that role as instructor correctly. You can also be what they call an ingredient in the whole process. In other words, you're involved in the process. I've used the example already of opening a bank account, where you not providing all the documentation is not going to complete the whole service delivery process, and as a result might lead to your dissatisfaction. On the contrary, however, if you are very sharp and you're providing the information as they requested, or you actually came prepared and you have it already, because most banks nowadays, if there's 10 steps to open a bank account, 9 of the steps you can actually do online, and they also give you some guidance as to what other information you have to provide them with, by maybe dropping off a copy of your ID and some form of identification and other personal detail at the bank where you're opening the account. I know it was very, very quick to open a bank account the other day for my son. Once you turn 16, obviously they've always had bank accounts, but we've changed it to a bank that offers you the opportunity to also now apply for your ID card, and you don't have to go stand in the queue. They do the whole process for you at home phase. But anyway, that is another skill that's required because of the required involvement in the process. You could also fulfill the role of being a master, where, say, for instance, the customer must possess certain skills to complete the task that they are going to fulfill during the service delivery process. Where, for instance, the example I think they used in the textbook is where you want to learn a foreign language, but you have to be able to communicate in a mutually understood language with that person. Otherwise, it's not going to be possible. If I want to learn, if I want to learn a new foreign language like Chinese, for instance, my instructor that's going to provide that service to me need to be able to communicate with me, or I need to be able to communicate in a language that both me and that instructor understands. Otherwise, how do I learn Chinese if we speak Chinese to me the whole time? Okay, there needs to be another language that both the customer and the service provider can communicate in. You can also fulfill the role of a marketer. This is where, for instance, you go to the airports, or let's say, for instance, you go to Ster-Kinekor, you've got your self-help desk, you book your tickets, and you basically just go there and print them, and then the person behind you you can see that they are not comfortable with it's probably the first time that they've done it, and then you basically assist them and show them how it's done. That's where you can also then basically get involved in the process, and you are obviously then assisting in marketing that particular service, which is actually a clinical product, so to speak. You can also be the decision maker. Very often, if you, let's say, for instance, are in charge of the buying division or the purchasing division at a company, and you need to get and you need to compare a number of service providers, their quality, their prices, before you decide on which one you're going to take, then you fulfill that particular role. Then you are the decision maker, and you are hunting for the better option of those that's available to you. Everybody all good? Too much or just enough to stomach over lunch?
Yes, so all good.
Good. Welcome, Paige. Let's see. Most of the involvement of the customer is as a result of how technology has advanced over the last couple of decades, and actually at a rate of knots advancing at the moment, resulting in many of the functions that a service provider would have in the past fulfilled, you can do yourself now. You can book online if you want to book a flight. You don't have to go to a travel agent to assist you with that. So these self-help options have become very popular, and it's made the whole service delivery process, in my opinion, much more efficient. Obviously, the consumer who requires the use of that service must have a certain basic level of skill to be able to fulfill that self-help option. Now, the benefits that the customer receive with self-help options is that obviously information is available immediately. It's not a question of you having to make an appointment to see somebody at the bank, and then they do discuss the options available, and you forget half of them and you leave with the brochure and you're not 100% sure. Similarly, when you're buying a house, for instance, or buying a vehicle, usually I can remember when I was just starting out working, and I was buying my own car from myself for the first time. It took 3 or 4 visits to the dealership before the transaction was finished. Nowadays, people don't have the time, not even to buy something as valuable as a vehicle, and they want the process to be completed very smoothly. And then in the latter years, I think my last vehicle I bought without actually driving the vehicle for the first time, that on the day it was delivered, because of how the process of I bought a vehicle. I live in the northern suburbs. So I bought a vehicle that was sold through a dealership in Knysna, and first time I actually touched the vehicle myself was when the keys were handed over to me on the day of delivery. Yes, I took it for a spin around the block before I did the final signing, but it just shows you how a lot of the steps in the service delivery process have gradually, as a result of the intervention of technology, have improved and have been replaced, and it's actually done by the customer themselves nowadays. Sorry, the fact that I actually work from my home office, I have the luxury now of sipping on a cup of tea as well in between sentences and slides, yeah, really enjoyed that. Interesting fact, I mean, while I'm talking on that subject of tea, I see that rooibos, which is a very popular, obviously, among tea drinkers, especially South Africans, because it's a proudly South African product, are battling at the moment because of the demand in the market. We know that if there's a greater demand, but there's under supply, that obviously your prices is going to be affected negatively in that regard. And the fact that yeah, they currently, usually they produce, I think the production cost per kilogram of rooibos is about 35 Rand at the moment. And the market, the buyers are only offering about 20 Rand at the moment. So it's supplied at a loss. And hopefully, yeah, that will turn around. But yeah, it's just another indication of how the pandemic has affected something that we didn't, well, that we're not aware of every day. But it just it shows you. I believe that the first South African who we are aware of what's happening in India at the moment, and that the pandemic is almost out of hand there, with more than 400,000 people infected every day. And last week there was, and that's been going for more than a week now. And I think they're running out of oxygen, and the health services have collapsed, and the mortuaries and infirmaries and everything is under pressure. The fact is that, yeah, and I think there's on average more than 1,000 people that die a day, and I think a couple of days ago it was 3,000 that died on one day. So that particular variation of the virus is apparently very is a tough one. And I believe that yesterday they have identified the first South African, or first person in South Africa who returned from India after a trip to India, again in KZN, where everything started for South Africa last year. Has been identified with the new variation, the Indian variation, so to speak, of the virus. So let's hopefully that containment is done effectively, and that's not the start of a next wave for us. I think then also the customer, because they are involved very often, have first-class customer experience, because let's say, for instance, there was something in the traditional service delivery process that they were unhappy with, maybe another person that wasn't providing the service that they expected from a service provider. Now they, as customers, have actually taken over that role as a result of the self-service technology, and there's no reason why they can't be satisfied with it. They can actually, to a certain extent, determine how satisfied they will be. So that definitely it has improved the quality of service that customers are experiencing, because they are very much part, and sometimes even in control of the whole process. Right. Sorry, I took another sip of tea there. Why do we want the customer to participate in the service delivery process? It is to include the customer satisfaction. And obviously, sometimes the service provider becomes more effective, because they can now replace a staff member, or not replace, sorry, wrong choice of words. They can now use a current employee in a more efficient way to deliver a better service, because they some of the responsibilities, some of the functions that they would have been responsible for in the past is now done by the consumer themselves. So hence resulting in all over more efficient and delivery process, and a happier customer, because the quality of service is so much better. It's on the screen. I don't have to embroider on that, but I think that if we really want for this to be a successful process, proper communication between all the parties involved is absolutely of the essence. Right. Which factors will or can determine the customer's level of participation? It depends on the level of input from the customer in the form of information, sometimes time and effort that's required. The customer also, and that's where the balance needs to be determined very, very effectively by the service provider. You don't want the entire service, you don't want the customer to leave and feel that the entire service delivery process was almost done by themselves, because then they're going to get to a point where they say, you know what, I don't need that service anymore because and you've become redundant because the customer can do everything himself basically. So the extent to which the customer will co-create in the service delivery process will depend on how much they want to help themselves, because most people get involved if there's a benefit or a reward in for them. Some people are just of that nature that they want to help others as well. So people firstly get involved to satisfy their own needs, then they realize that they can actually be of benefit to other people as well. And the spin-off for the service provider is that because of the involvement of the customer in the service delivery process, the customer now becomes a loyal customer, becomes a raving fan of a particular business, and they are actually, through their word of mouth and their storytelling and sharing their good experiences with friends and family, they are promoting the business of the service provider. So that is not the main reason, excuse me, why customers are drawn into the process of service delivery by the service provider, but it definitely is a positive spin-off for the organization. We're all going to have different perceptions and experiences and preferences. What I want out of this particular activity is going to be different to what Marley or Paige or Jessica wants. You three girls might want to book a weekend in a resort because you want to party with your friends. I'm much older. I would like to book a weekend in that same resort to relax. I need peace and tranquility. I want to be away from the rush and the noise and everything. So that both being there, using the same service at the same time, can influence how you or how I have experienced that particular weekend, and as a result that service, and how we would then rate that particular service. By the way, that's not a bad idea. Maybe I should put myself into one of these wonderful spas that we have here in the Cape and the Winelands. Right. Not everybody should be involved as a customer in the service delivery process. You get people that you actually don't want, people who don't want to learn, people who are just using the opportunity now to personally benefit, but actually they're doing more harm than good because they almost want to take over the whole process, and they actually create more problems than they do good. Obviously, you have got to be very careful in recruiting the right customers. And obviously educating and informing them properly, and there must be the reward thing. I've obviously been very, very happy with Pick n Pay, and specifically Pick n Pay's loyalty reward card. A lot of people have attempted to convince me to also get the same kind of loyalty card from Checkers, the one that Checkers offers. I am tempted, but to be honest with you, I quite like to. I'd much rather, and it's different in every situation, because I know that the Checkers loyalty card immediately at the point of your transaction, there at the till, gives you a reward in the form of kickbacks and discounts, while the Pick n Pay one. And maybe it's because I've become used to that reward, and I know myself I'll probably shop more regularly if I'm getting the instant gratification. But I'd much rather prefer to use the Smart Shopper option, where the reward is done at the end of the year based on everything that I have bought throughout the year, and then it's a sort of a surprise at a time where everybody's finances are rock bottom towards the end of the year, and with obviously the Christmas season ahead, you want to spoil yourself and your loved ones slightly, and that comes to me always as a very nice surprise. I'm aware of it, but I don't necessarily every day take it in consideration when I do my shopping. But it is nice to have a sort of a surprise. I did not win the 140 million Powerball on the weekend, unfortunately. But we'll try again, because I can't recall if anyone else did win either. The main downside of customers too involved in the service delivery process is that there's almost taking all the surprises away, and the customers don't really know what to expect from the whole exercise, and they can very easily, because of a negative experience, can become a rogue. In other words, somebody who's going to tell everybody about how bad your company's service is. Often it's because they were not properly informed, and they lack the knowledge of what exactly is expected of them, and how to perform the particular service. If I don't know how to do something, the chances that I'll struggle with it and make mistakes are obviously so much greater. I might eventually get it right, but my levels of frustration is not necessarily going to positively contribute towards and rate that particular experience as a satisfactory one. I'll be disappointed. I might be that orange phase in the middle that's not 100% sure. I'm not dissatisfied, but I'm not totally happy either. For us to, I think, to the managerial implications at the end of each chapter is just basically a summary of the particular chapter. I'm going to read through this slide, and then we can go straight into our case study, which is an interesting one, because I'm not sure how many of you actually enjoy going to the movies. We're talking pre-COVID now. We used to go to the movies and enjoyed it. Who misses it because of what happened?
I wasn't really a movies fan, so I didn't. And it was so expensive.
Why? Are you more sort of you prefer to watch it in your own privacy, and maybe even have the option of pausing it if you want to do something else, or to stop watching if it's not good? Because you're not going to do that when you're in the movies, right? You're going to sit there, and even if you don't like it, I sat through many, but usually when my yardstick that I use for judging movies is that I'm almost reluctant to say it, but many of these Oscar-winning movies, especially if it's the one the Oscar for the Best Picture, is usually not that entertaining, to be honest with you. I'm more sort of if I'm gonna go that experience and sit back and pay double the price for popcorn, that I could do it for myself at home, and the luxury of the chair and everything, and the whole ambiance. I want it to be loud, and I want it to be on the biggest screen ever. I used to enjoy going to the IMAX, but you go to IMAX to watch Jurassic Park and Mission Impossible and those action movies. And I see there's a Top Gun 2 might be released in June, they say. I was a huge Top Gun 1 fan, and actually quite enjoy what I've seen so far in trailers of the second one. And I still remain amazed in how much of those stunts Tom Cruise actually does himself. But anyway, slightly off the topic. Let's just summarize the chapter by reading what it's just another word, managerial implications, basically just a summary of the chapter. Management need to decide on the extent to which the customer can do the job themselves, what will be the role of the customer, and to what extent the customer will be involved in promoting the organization. Your service organization must also decide on the training and the education that will be required, and also the rewards or incentives that must be made available to the customers who participate. So in conclusion, after establishing the above, the organization will be able to divide the customers into different segments on the basis of their consumption patterns. If somebody shops at a particular outlet regularly, the managers pick up on these things. They later on almost sort of give you personal attention. Those are the kind of individuals that you are looking for, because that means that that person is loyal to that particular shop. Is probably going to be a good candidate that can get involved in the process. A person that you can easily educate and inform, and then use in the service delivery process in whatever manner you consider to do so. It's a popular use in the past that, for instance, I know that often they give you extra discount if you purchase a particular product, and you can refer 5 other people, and 1 or more of those other 5 references then actually shop as well, because that means actually if they take into consideration those additional spending that the others, your references, have made as almost sort of indirectly you spending it, and they therefore are willing to reward you, but they also know that they've got 2 or 3 more clients which can in future maybe do exactly the same. It's exactly how the virus or any virus spreads. One person coughs on another, and that person actually coughs on another, and before you know it, we've got a pandemic. So that concludes this chapter. For the rest of the session, and we should probably not spend more than 20 minutes on this. I've gone through it, and it's rather self-explanatory. So what I'm going to do is the particular case study on Ster-Kinekor, and specifically Ster-Kinekor's self-help kiosks. I'm going to read through it, and then we're going to just look at 3 or 4 questions related to that, which is quite simple. And again, just summarizing and reinforcing the important concepts that we have covered in this chapter. Okay, let's go right into it. Ster-Kinekor introduced a self-help kiosk at the movie complexes not a couple of years ago. This was done for different reasons. The self-help kiosk represents a new multimedia means of providing service to the moviegoers, and also more opportunities to interact with your customers. The kiosk presents information in different ways: text, sound, graphics, images, videos, or both. And in the past, the service of the customer that they received from a Ster-Kinekor was determined by how many movie ticket salespeople were actually available at the sales desk. You're queuing up, you're looking at all the options available at the top. You snake in the queue as you wait. You get to the front, you book your tickets, you pay, and there you go. This has since changed with the introduction of the self-help ticket kiosks, where customers can purchase their own tickets. They're able to access information about the movies quickly, also able to carry out the transactions more rapidly and more efficiently. The customer selects the movie they want. They can even select where they want to sit and how they want to pay, by credit card or by debit card. The self-help kiosk also gives movie club members the opportunity to check how many points they have. It can issue you free tickets if you qualify for it, or maybe it's your birthday, and whatever other benefits the movie club ticket offers you. I know that at some point through the Discovery membership, getting that movie club ticket, there were days that you can actually watch movies for free up to 7 o'clock at night, which is quite nice if you have children in the house and there's a movie that they want everybody to see, because you have to drop them off, drive them there anyway. You might as well watch it, so especially if it's free. Customers have really taken over the role of the movie ticket salesperson, which now actually can do other promotional and service delivery, or fulfill other service delivery functions. There are some images and the questions that we want to address are the following. Any of you, I'm not going to nominate a particular individual. Any of you can answer this. What are the main advantages of the new movie ticket kiosk for customers? What are the advantages for employees? And what are the advantages for staff clinical? What are the advantages for customers? Regardless if you're a movie fan or not, you have been to the movies. Who has used? Let me rather ask you this. Let's start with this. Who have used this particular option when they last went to the movies?
I've never actually used this before. I always go to the desk.
You always. I think it serves a dual purpose. I've caught myself in two different situations. You're in the mall, you're walking around, you've done what you wanted to do, and all of a sudden somebody says, "Well, while we're here, let's go watch that movie." And if you've got time on hand, then you have two options. I would prefer to go to the desk myself, the sales desk, because often if that sort of instant decision was taken and it wasn't a planned outing, you probably don't have your 3D glasses with you. If you want to watch a 3D movie, so you can collect that obviously from the ticket sales desk. But the other option is if there's a long queue, because it was a last minute sort of decision, while you're at the mall, you decided to do it, you can actually go to the self-help desk. It's a touch screen. You click on whatever movie you want. It will show you exactly what the person at the sales ticket desk sees as to the layout and which seats are available. You select them. Again, everything is touchscreen, and then basically you can decide you want to pay. You swipe your card, they print the ticket for you there, and off you go. So again, it's nice, and with what I've just said, I think you know the majority of the answers of question number one. But I've recently, there was no pre-COVID, I go online. I go to Stack Clinical's on website. I book my tickets there. I get the necessary. I get a reference, and I've got a choice. I can print it at home for myself, and then I go straight to the line to be given access to the particular theater where the movie shows, or I can actually just go to the self-help desk. I can swipe the card that I have used to pay online, and it will print my tickets immediately. So there's another option. I've used that option because I have the facilities to print it at home. So I just print it and I go straight to, actually go straight to the popcorn queue, and then obviously into the theater. Anybody else? I mean, who's used it before? Anybody have used this service before? You don't shop. You don't movie a lot, by the sounds of this, huh?
No, sir, not really.
Not really.
It's just too expensive, especially because now you can just download the movie at home, and then you can make your own popcorn and everything like that.
Yeah, that's Netflix for a month.
I think our generation missed the movie.
You're quite right, and I think it's also you go through a phase of the types of movies. To be honest with you, it's almost as if there's 10 movies that are screened, then 5 of them are animations. Okay, unless you have children, and I've gone through the animation phase myself. I was lucky that when I went through the animation phase, or my children went to the phase that animations were the things to watch. Some absolute legendary classics, like Toy Story, for instance, the whole lot of them, Shrek, and what was the other one? I think probably Nemo, were the ones that was out, and they were sort of the especially Toy Story was in my opinion, when it comes to animations, were the breakthrough movie. Just well, the whole story, but then also it just caught on. I went through that animation phase. They were good ones, and there really a lot to select from. At one point, I thought, "Oh my goodness, I'm not going to have enough money to get through this year," because there's almost one that the kids will want to watch every month. And then it went through a dip, and to be honest with you, it's just I think you're quite right. It's your generation is probably your generation will probably you can watch it on your screen, you can stream it on your phone. I mean, so why go through that extra expense? Yes, and I have to admit, as a result of the increase in cost, I've not frequented Ster-Kinekor theaters as often as I used to in the past, and that was even after I've had children. What do you think the greatest benefit is to Ster-Kinekor, for instance, to have a self-help option like this available to their customers? Just from a business point of view, because when they're a business, they're a service provider. They're showing you movies. They want to entertain you. What else can you think of that they specifically can benefit from?
They save costs and labor, maybe.
They definitely save save costs. Yes, they would have to appoint a person, and that's the last thing. If you look at the layout of a movie theater, of a establishment that has more 10 different movies showing at the same time in different theaters. There's two things that people hate when they use a service, being it the banking service or the movies, or they don't want to queue. People want to avoid a queue if they are treating themselves, because as we've identified, it's a cost to go out and watch movies if you take the whole family with, or there's a great cost involved, and you want to not be frustrated or tired by the time that you actually sit down for the movie to start. And therefore, to avoid that, they've offered you, or Ster-Kinekor now benefits from the fact that some of the functions that an employee needed to do in the past, man a particular monitor for you to book and pay your tickets, you do that yourself now, and that individual opens up the opportunity to have more people that will basically, so to speak, tear your ticket at the entrance. Your employees can be used in a more efficient way. You're not going to let people go as a result of this improved technology. Otherwise, you'll think twice. I mean, businesses like this go out of business if the rumor goes around that technology have replaced human beings. So they just use the employees that they have more efficiently in other capacities, which adds to the value of the service experience, because you don't have to queue now to buy a ticket. You don't have to queue now to actually or wait too long in a queue to access the theater, because there are people manning every door now instead of just one or maybe two people. So whatever points of queuing there can be at a service provider, if you can remove that and replace it through technology, where the customer fulfills that role himself or herself, you can use that employee more efficiently in another capacity. So yeah, that's sort of a shared benefit. Employees and employees benefit from it because they are taught new skills because they have to be used in a different capacity at their businesses. Right. Can different roles be identified for customers who use movie ticket kiosks? Yeah, I would say the roles that they fulfill, firstly, as a customer themselves, they contribute to their own satisfaction or not. They can't complain later on that they had to queue to buy a ticket because it's a self-help option and they took that option. Maybe helping other people is part of the roles, potential roles that they can fulfill. And like I'm doing now, I'm promoting Stack Unico because my experience has been a good one. The last well, almost every time that I never had a problem with any self-help test that's offline or not available, or the screen is not is blue or black, and the steps to follow are the touch screen doesn't work. That frustrated the what's his name out of me over the weekend, because I went to two specific banks, the bank that I bank at, to two ATMs. They've replaced the old ATM with a new touchscreen option where everything is done touchscreen. That is if you can actually advance to the next step by touching the screen. Then you go back to the manual one with the little buttons at the bottom, and obviously that doesn't work either. So there was a bit of frustration in that regard, but again, that could be another way to another role that the customer can fulfill to help other people and to promote the business in general. I think we sort of answered question 3 in that saying, what role, if any, will other customers play in the new service? The role they will play, obviously, is that they will be helping each other, or they can help each other. They should help each other, but you also have people who say, listen, I paid for the service. I mean, you figure it out yourself. I mean, how do you think I learned it in the first place? But that's not the point. You can also have a staff member available that shows new people. Ask them, first time, yes, sir? No, first time of using the self-help? Yes. Well, let me show you how it's done. It just adds to the service experience. So other customers can fulfill the role of spoiling your fun, because you that's one of the other reasons why I actually I enjoyed going to the movies at certain times and certain sessions during the day. The really popular time slots I prefer to avoid, because there's always a few customers who believe that they bought a ticket and they paid for it. It's expensive, and therefore they can do what they want. I'm specifically referring to people who are on their phones in the movies, who actually are throughout the movie on the cell phone, regardless if the sound is off or not. They're either playing a game or they're sending emails or whatever. It's just annoying. Then you have the people whose eating mannerisms seriously lack some skill. But again, those people contribute towards your potential bad experience. The definitely influences how good or bad your experience might be. Okie dokie. How can Stack Unico train, educate, encourage customers to use the service and reward them for doing so? I think the solution lies in the last word in the sentence. How to reward them. Make sure that the rewards are good rewards, because that will encourage people to use that service. If using the self-help service is not going to add to my experience, improve my experience from what I was traditionally used to, I'm not going to use it. If they say if you use the self-help test, you get an extra 10% discount on your tickets, then more people will use that. The only problem with that is then you'll probably have to install more of those kiosks because more people will use it, and if more people use it, there will be longer queues in front of the ones that we have there. But anyway, I think you get the picture. It is very important to ensure that there's a good understanding and collaboration between customers and employees of a service provider to ensure that they jointly add to the all-over experience. Any questions, anybody?
No, so all good. Thank you.
You all good? Right, that's it. That's chapter 9 done. Tick that box. We will write the class test next week. At some point, it's probably going to be after next Wednesday, so don't worry about it now. I'm just sharing with you, and obviously I'll announce it as well. It's going to be a similar format as the ones that you've done previously, and you saw that so same format repeated itself in the test as well. I'll follow up as well as the way the moderation of the tests are in the process, and to give you feedback on that. Maybe tomorrow we can just discuss the test paper, regardless if I have the final results available or not. But yeah, that's, if nobody else have any questions, that's it for today.
Well, thank you, sir. Have a good day.
I'm pretty sure you're not going to go off to the movies, but at least go have some lunch. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you, sir.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.